Software stocks downloading some pretty big gains this month. The IGV software ETF climbing nearly 10% in June. So is this rally for real, or is this one giant head fake? Let's go off the chart with Chris Verrone of Strategas. Chris, what are you looking at?
Well, I brought along a few charts, but I think the right context is exactly what you just said. Over the last, let's call it 35 trading days, the IGV, the software ETF, is up 20%. So I think the question is, has this move already happened, or is there more to go? I want to bring up our first chart here. It's just the IGV. We've seen it break out above this range it's been in basically since February. But what I want to note is under the surface, it's actually been a little bit more bifurcated than what we've been used to. I think the good news is we're up through 390. That was a big level. I think the bad news is, believe it or not, IGV has actually not made a new relative high versus the S&P. So the new absolute highs are just not quite as strong relative to the index compared to what we saw earlier this year. I think that's worth noting. And if you go to our second slide here, I think the other thing worth noting is we just need to appreciate the fact that a lot of the software space is now overbought into what is approaching a more challenging stretch of the calendar. You have the RSI somewhere in that 75, 76 range. Now, I don't view that as fatal, but I wouldn't be surprised if coming weeks or coming months might be a little bit more frustrating than what we just went to. And I think BK speaks to this as well. We just had a huge tailwind of bond yields going 180 back to the 140, 145 range. So yields more stable here, an overbought condition for software, not making new relative highs. I think at the very least, we got to pick our spots. And that's what we'll do here. We brought along three names, two we like, one we don't. The first one, listen, it's hard not to still like this Microsoft chart. This has been one of the great trends of the index, not just the past year or 5 years, really the past 10, 12 years. And that hasn't changed for us. The trend is intact. The relative position of the stock has also broken out versus the S&P. We like that. I think tactically you could probably look to a 290, 295 target. The second one we like long here is Salesforce. You know, our thinking is Adobe's already broken out, so why not Salesforce? They're similar looking charts. You know, above 250 would be bullish here, and I think that would kind of point you to that 300 target. So Microsoft long, Salesforce long, I think are the good part of this group. On the weaker side, we need to be mindful of names that are just rallying into downtrends. And I think COUPA Software, big name, 25 billion market cap name, is an example of just that. It's rallying in a downtrend. 200-day moving average is above it. We like to be sellers of overbought conditions and downtrends. I think you'll get that opportunity here. So important couple of weeks in front of us for software. Pick your spots. It's more bifurcated despite the new high. Microsoft long, Salesforce long, be a seller at COUPA.
Chris, just a quick question on the overall index, the overall ETF. Would now be a time to short the IGV, or is it too early to say when you say it's going to be a rough couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think it's too early to say. I'd say number one, we don't short uptrends, and the trend in IGV is up. But I just want to be mindful that under the surface, it really is not as dominant as it was in the second half of last year.
Okay, Chris, great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Verrone. Karen, I asked that question specifically for you.
Yeah, well, I am short.
I am short now.
Right. Okay. I am. We had a chance in May to cover when things got really ugly, but I remain short. I do have some positions that I think of it as a hedge for something like a Palantir. CRM, I did a bad job. I bought it well, and then it went up like 3 points, and I sold it, which is terrible. That's just a terrible job. We'll see. I mean, I like the CRM call, and we'll see the Slack acquisition should close in July.
Yeah, I think Salesforce, Chris is right. Through 250, then you've finally broken that downtrend from last August when it was trading, was it 285 or so, the all-time high? But until then, you're standing and waiting. So I think Karen's going to be able to buy this stock probably cheaper. If not, you buy it on a breakout above 250. So Salesforce, to me, is the most interesting one on that list.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.